Hello friends, I am Dr. Suchita Vishwakarma, Assistant Professor, Department of Management, School of Management Sciences, Lucknow. Welcome you all to the series of lectures on supply chain and logistics management. And today our topic of discussion is outsourcing, its nature and concepts. In the previous lectures, we have discussed a lot about supply chain and logistics. And as a person, when I had not studied supply chain and logistics, I had always wondered that do organizations perform all the activities by themselves? Is it actually possible for them to do all the different bits by themselves? But then later when I studied this subject, I got to know that no, I was wrong in this concept, and organizations do not usually do all the activities by themselves. So, over here we need to understand this concept of outsourcing, how and what kind of work organizations do by themselves, and what kind of work or activities can be given to someone else, and how this particular process of outsourcing is beneficial to the company, whether is it beneficial or has certain challenges also. So, all such details we will be discussing in this particular lecture of ours. So, let us get started. So, let us discuss the background of outsourcing first before we discuss about what is outsourcing. This concept of outsourcing originated from American terminology, which and the terminology was outside resourcing, which meant that to get resources from somewhere outside. Outside means external to organization. The term was later used in economic terminology to indicate the use of external sources to develop the business, which typically were using their internal resources. Now, traditionally, when the companies used to be smaller in size, when the competitions was not so much, when the demand was also less, that means when I am talking about the Second World War phase, when the competition was not much and the people were not travelling to a longer distance, and so had limited demand, the population was also not this big of the world, then obviously the people, most of the companies operating in those days were trying to do all the activities by themselves, and that was basically because of the lesser knowledge about someone else who could do a similar activity or could help them, and also because there was lesser demand. So, they had lot of time where they can manufacture or provide all kind of support that was required in the organization. But later, because of the increase in competition, because of increase of cost also in the production, because of the larger amounts of demand, there was a need by the company that they are not actually able to do everything by themselves, and there was a need of help from some external sources, and that lead to the concept of or evolution of this concept of outsourcing. According to an article published in Economist, Tim Hindi stated that outsourcing is an old phenomena that has made its presence felt since the time of Second World War, as I said, and was especially had a remarkable trend after 1990s. According to some estimates, in 1946, only 20% of the value added in US goods and services were from external sources, but this increased and rather tripled to 60% in later stages, that means somewhere around 1990s. This clearly shows that earlier the concept of outsourcing was not so prevalent, but now with the increasing of competition, increasing of demand, this concept of outsourcing is very much in trend by all the companies. So, let us talk about the definition of outsourcing. According to Wilcocks, outsourcing is defined as the process of subcontracting operations and services to other firms that specialize in such operations and services that can do them cheaper or better or even both. The concept basically means that since I said that earlier people used to do, the companies used to do to perform all activities by themselves. So, let us over here understand that any individual or group of individual may not have expertise in all the areas, For example, if I have a company and let us say I have 5 people, these 5 people may or may not have all the expertise, and even if they do have the expertise, all 5 of us may not have time to perform all the activities, because performing all the activities will incur lot of cost also, incur lot of time also. Let us take a small example. For example, if I have a restaurant and I want to offer my customers all kind of dishes. Now, for example, over a period I see that there are requirements related from my customers for bakery products also, but for baking or for providing them with the bakery items, I would obviously require certain specialized machines, for example, oven, microwave or something else. And for that obviously I would have to recruit some person who has expertise in bakery. Now, if I see that the demand do exist for bakery items, but it is not so often, then in that case I may think that if the demand is not so often, then there is no need to put so much of cost or incur so much of cost in recruiting a person who has a bakery expertise or has a machine would require to set up the microwave or the ovens for baking the products. And in that case I may get such kind of bakery items which are mostly ordered by my customers from somewhere else, that means from some external organization. So, this is basically the concept of outsourcing. Let us also have a look on another definition by Domingo. Outsourcing is basically a practice of hiring functional experts to handle business units that are outside of firm's core business. So, over here we get a word firm's core business. So, this is very important, because the company are basically required to understand that what are the areas in which they hold expertise, and those expertise area can be considered as a core business, and those areas which are not adding so much of value or not of regular demand or we do not have expertise in it can be considered as a non-core area for the particular business. So, as you can see from this picture that companies get outsourcing done, and this outsourcing can be done basis the organization level agreement or service level agreement. Obviously, this is something that we will be discussing after some time in this particular lecture. So, let us move on. Now, what is the reason of outsourcing? The traditional reasons used to be that reaction to problem. Now, reaction to problem, that means when a company this is something which earlier people used to do, that means pre second World War phase, that when companies used to face any problem in performing a particular activity, then they used to call someone from outside their organization to solve that problem. So, this was the first and the foremost reason of outsourcing in traditional times. The second reason was reduction and control of cost. If earlier the people used to feel that doing a particular activity is leading to lot of cost, then they used to get the work done from outside. Then avoid large capital investment cost, as I said with the bakery example. If I feel that setting up of microwave, oven and recruiting the expert person would lead to lot of cost to my complete process of production, then also I may feel that yes, outsourcing is required. And insufficient resource available. If I feel that I do not have sufficient resources and having then that kind of resources is something difficult, or may handling them can be a challenge, or that resource is not very easily available in the nearby areas, then that also led to the traditional people having outsourcing concepts. But the modern concept has changed slightly, and over here we need to understand that the modern reasons are much more than the above 4, and obviously these are still considered as the reasons of outsourcing, but there are various other reasons also because of which the companies have started adopting the practice of outsourcing, and these include that through outsourcing companies are able to focus on core competencies. Now, over here we need to understand that every company wants to provide the best products to their customers, and providing something best is not so easy, and providing the best is only possible when you have your total expertise. So, company nowadays have started realizing that let us focus, that means let the company focus on the core competencies or area only, the skills that they have, the primary functionality that they are required to do, let the company focus on that only, and all the other related or associated functions can be done by others. So, this is the prima facie reason nowadays. The second reason is keeping up with the cutting edge technology or innovation centers. Now, for any company to purchase a technology or even rent out a technology is a costly affair. So, in order to provide a good product to the customer, the companies are also required to have technology. But then what is the way out? If they are not ready to purchase or if they are not ready to rent out, then what is the way out? So, the other way out is outsourcing the particular part of product which needs a technological innovation. So, if a company is basically allowing a particular spare part of theirs to be made in some other organization which we feel has technological advancement, then probably the spare part will be made in a good manner with all the technologies incorporated in them, and for which obviously I can pay the outsource company. For example, if I am manufacturing a car and there is some innovation or something good or some technological requirement in the let us say steering wheels that is required, or let us say the dashboard, then probably and if I do not have the expertise of preparing or manufacturing those advanced dashboards, then probably I can can outsource the manufacturing of dashboards or steering wheels from other organization, and then I can obviously add include it and assemble it in my car, so that particular the other company can do it in a better manner, and obviously the end result of the product will be good. Then creating value of the organization and its customer. In our previous lecture, we had discussed about value chain model which was given by Michael Porter, and we had understood that each and every activity performed by an organization leads to increase of value in the customer's mind. So, over here we need to understand that whether outsourcing of a particular activity, process or manufacturing of a particular part from an other external company, whether that would lead to value addition. If yes, if the product if outsourced can lead to better benefits to the customer, then that should be done. Building partnership. Building partnership, that means if I am partnering with any other organization and helping them also grow and helping myself also grow, then that would lead to better relationship, not only better relationship, but also increased of mutual profits also. Risk mitigation is basically a concept where the companies can try to reduce their risk by getting the work done from other company, so that they have lesser load of work and they are able to smoothly process the entire activity. And then enhancing infrastructural flexibility. Outsourcing also helps in enhancing infrastructure flexibility in terms that if the demand is increasing and if there is a peak business and during in the business cycle phase there is a peak duration when the demand is increasing a lot, and I am not able to get all work done by myself, or I am not able to supply the products which are required in a particular quantity, then obviously outsourcing is something which would help me in change or alter the capacity of production. Coming to the scope of outsourcing. Outsourcing is one concept which is nowadays used in almost all kind of industries. I have obviously named few, which includes IT sector, call centers, finance and accounting outsourcing, procurement outsourcing, textile, manufacturing, human resource management. So, basically it means that any of the organization can outsource any of the activities, they can outsource, they can get their IT solutions done from somewhere external or some other organization, or they can even, for example, banks, they are outsourcing their call centers, the calls that we receive for customer feedback or maybe for credit cards or for loans. So, these are usually outsourced. Finance and accounting outsourcing, There may be an organization which feels that they do not have expert people to handle their finances, so they can get their accounting and financing services also done by someone else, maybe CAs or some other organization also. Procurement outsourcing, which basically means that if the organization feels that they do not have sufficient people or manpower or expert people to help them in their procurement job. So that can also be done because procurement is something which takes a lot of time, for where you need to understand that who all are the suppliers, from where these suppliers can be good supplier relationship management can be done, and how much the amount of quantity or inventory has to be called for, and what is the frequency. So, everything can be done or facilitated by the procurement outsourcing. In textile industry also, a lot of companies are outsourcing, let us say embroidery work or some additions, value additions that they are getting it done from other companies. Manufacturing, as I gave the example of car. Similarly, many other manufacturing companies are also getting certain parts, spare parts made from other companies. And human resource management is also one area where companies are usually outsourcing the recruitment process or the performance appraisal process or the training process through some external body. Now, coming to the classification of outsourcing given by Wilcocks and Fitzgerald in 1993, outsourcing can be of various types. The first is the proportion of first is based on the proportion of outsourcing. That means whether the organization is giving the entire work to the external body or giving some selective or partial work to the external body, and that would lead to outsourcing on the basis of proportion. That means how much work I am giving, how much work out of the total work or the activities of an organization is given to the external body. Then the second classification is the outsourcing can be applied in in which area, that means whether human resource or project development or service management. So, depending on the area on which the outsourcing activity is applied on, this is another classification. The third classification is that outsourcing on contract, whether the outsourcing, that means whether the work has been given to external organization on the basis of a general contract or for certain economic purpose, or has been given for certain transitional, that means maybe it has been given today and the mode of operandi or the mode of work can change later. So, what is the kind of contract on which the outsourcing is done. Then type of outsourcing relationship, which basically means whether the outsourcing is is provided by one provider, one customer, or one supplier, more customer. That means with how many people, how many bodies, how many organizations I am having the outsourcing, whether I am having with outsourcing the work with one person, one organization, or with multiple organization. The period of outsourcing, whether long term and short term. If the company feels that the kind of demand, that the kind of product that they are getting outsourced is something which is of permanent demand, then they can have a permanent outsourcing, or otherwise can have a short term outsourcing too. And the location of suppliers, that means whether the people who are outsourcing, the organization which is outsourcing my work, whether they are close by my organization, that means is in local vicinity, or is in national boundaries or international boundaries. So, these are the various classifications, various ways in which outsourcing can be done. Now, coming to the advantages of outsourcing. The major advantages are: first, focus on core tasks. The company is able to have expertise and will be able to focus on their own core task, and will be able to perform their core task in a better manner rather than focusing on all areas. And as it is said that never be jack of all trades, rather one should try to be master of one. And so, it is good for not only for the organization, but for the customer also to get the best product only when they have expert people working on a particular product. Now, the second advantage is lowers the cost, which basically means that if I am getting a work done from somewhere else, that would lead to less of fixed cost, because I will not be required to set up the machineries, the people who would be required to do that particular work, and will ultimately also reduce the cost of production of my unit, because the company who is outsourcing the particular task has more of would actually leverage on the economies of scale, and will be producing the particular good in larger quantities, and so the cost of producing or manufacturing that particular part will be less for the other company in comparison to our company. Then coming to the third point, the advantage is promote growth, because if I am getting a help from other company, obviously the pace of production will be fast and will help or facilitate in growth for the company. Maintain operational control, I will be able to have a control on all my operational activities, and will not be required to waste time on something on which I am not an expert. Offer staffing flexibility. Obviously, staffing flexibility is something which is a additional advantage of outsourcing, because I will have to recruit only those number of people for which are required at a particular time for completing my core activities, rather than having a large number of staff who are who will be supporting who will be in a supporting role. Providing continuity and risk management. Obviously, the company is when getting a work done outsourced, then obviously there will be a continuous flow of continuous demand and supply chain that will continue, and there will be no hurdles, and the company will be able to minimize and manage the risk of going out of stock, or reducing the risk of damage, or reducing the risk of non availability of finance, or any other productional challenges. Then develop internal task. Since I know that all the people that I have expertise in the core competence and have a similar core competency, so it will be better, and it will be more easy and possible for any organization to develop and provide opportunities to all the staffs in the core area itself. Then improve product and service. The quality of the product will also get improved because of core expertise that I have and the core expertise that the outsource company has. Saving on time. Obviously, this is something very important, because the company will be able to save time, and without wasting time in understanding and learning the processes of the something which they are not expert on, and will help them develop themselves in a better manner. And access to new resources, expertise and innovation. Because the company is outsourcing the process, activity, manufacturing part or something from the other company, which have expertise in that particular area, will help me to improve my product and have a better offering to the customer. Now, let us also understand the challenges of or the problems of outsourcing. The first problem of outsourcing is loss of control. Since I am getting my work done from someone else, some other organization, then that actually means that I will not be able to know or have a control on that particular part. I will have to completely rely on the other organization or the other person, external person, to provide me the product and I will not be able to understand the intricacies of it. The second problem is dissatisfaction of services. If the customer is dissatisfied by the product, so that actually means that I will have to take the ownership of dissatisfaction. That doesn't actually includes that whether the work was done outsourced, and so I cannot pass on the responsibility to my outsourcer. I will have to bear and owe all the responsibilities, be it satisfaction or dissatisfaction by the customer. Increased cash flow. The company will obviously have to arrange a lot of money, because whenever they are getting the work done, they will have to pay the part, they pay the profits, or pay from the profits, or pay the rental amount, or pay for the particular outsourcing services that they are taking. So, that will lead to increased cash flow. Confidentiality and security will also be lost, because the company will no longer will be able to have a competitive edge because of the particular part which I am getting outsourced. For example, if there is a car company and it is getting a let us say dashboard manufactured from somewhere else, so that some other XYZ organization can also outsource for my competitor also. So, that will lead to loss of competitive edge because of that particular feature. Selection of supplier, that means who would outsource, is also a big problem, because understanding that yes, who is the organization or the person who can help me out in the activity, and with all and can do it in a within the time frames and in a good manner, and maintain the confidentiality and secrecy, will also act as a lot of problem. Then the other challenges, too dependent on service provider. Obviously, as I said, that unless and until the dashboard is made, I cannot manufacture or assemble the car. So, obviously, I will have a lot of dependency on the outsourcing company. Loss of staff or morale problem. Since the company will be dependent on the organization, on the other organization, so at times the staff may feel that their work is not sufficient enough, which can lead to the complete growth of the organization, and that may lead to loss of morale also to the of the employees. Then time consuming, obviously since the organization needs to be dependent on the other organization, so that may lead to time wastage also. The other reason is that the provider may not understand the business environment. The forecasting skills of all organizations are not same. I may have a different objective, and I may have different strategies for my organization, which my outsourcing company may or may not have. If they are not able to forecast, if they are not able to do technological advancement with the pace that the parent company is doing, then probably that may lead to problems or challenges in the concept of outsourcing. And the next challenge is that provider it provides slow to react to changes in the strategy. As I said, that the outsourcing provider may not be able to forecast the changes, may not understand the pestle factors, may not understand the micro factors, and may continue with the same pace of working that they are doing, and so that may lead to continuing with the same strategy, which may in long run be hazardous. There are few examples, however, as we discussed earlier, that outsourcing is something which is very common today, and most of the companies are using this particular concept, but I have taken few examples. And let us say the first example is Alibaba, where they are outsourcing their productions, which is basically or majorly located in China. The another example is Google. They are outsourcing phone and email support services for AdWorld, and these works they are getting it done from more than 1,000 representatives across the world. Then Opera, the very famous software providers, they are also outsourcing the development of their softwares from 25 locations, different locations of the world, and this is helping them implement and improve their platform day by day. WhatsApp is also one organization which is outsourcing the development from the Russian independent contractors. Apple also gets their products outsourced from China. Cisco is one organization which is outsourcing their engineering talent from various parts of world, including India as well. For detailed understanding, you may further go to these references. In the next lecture of ours, we will be discussing more about outsourcing. Thank you.